Hi, if you've clicked on this video, I am guessing you are wanting to learn a little bit more about change and why change can be so hard. And that's even when we're motivated or we really want that change, but we're finding it hard to find the steps or take the steps to make that change happen. And then what we can often do is be self-critical or beat ourselves up, give ourselves a lot of negative messaging. So what I'd like to do in this video is show that there is not just two stages of change, i.e. change, no change, or success, failure. And in fact, that there are 5 stages of change. And by understanding those 5 stages of change, we can set ourselves up for success to better meet the goals and make that change happen. So, hi, my name's Erika Bischoff. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have over 15 years of providing therapy to my clients in private practice. I'm licensed in California and New York, and I specialize in cognitive behavior therapy. Now, one of the things that I am really good at is giving my clients tools and interventions. These are things that they can use outside the therapy session to help them manage and learn in their day-to-day to meet the goals and make that change happen. So in this video, I want to talk about one of those tools that I use, which is the stages of change. Now, this is a theoretical model that was developed in the 70s by 2 psychologists named Prochaska and DiClemente. And so what I'd like to do is kind of present the stages of change in 3 ways. 1, what are these stages of change? 2, the importance of accurately assessing what stage of change we're in. And 3, how do we move through those stages of change? So when I'm giving my clients the information about the stages of change, I provide a handout. Now, I'm going to put up a handout here, but I've also created a link in the description box for the handout so that you can download it. And then I'll leave the handout up while I'm talking about the... So when I'm working with my clients, I provide a handout around these stages of change so that they can learn and understand what they are. I briefly put up a view of the handout, and I will leave this up while I talk about the first part with the stages of change. I've also put a link in the description box below for the handout. So what is the first stage of change? That is pre-contemplation. That is denial. So we don't think we have a problem, right? So we may not think our alcohol use is problematic. We may minimize or dismiss the health risks that we have. We may not think there's a problem with the toxic work environment or the relationship, right? So we're not going to be making change. So that leads to the second stage. That is contemplation. Now, contemplation is where often a lot of us can get stuck in the stages of change. And this is when we just start to think about, oh yeah, there may be a problem. I may need to start to change, right? So we hear change talk. Now, there is early intervention, right? We're just starting that change talk. Yeah, I think there's a problem, but I don't really need to do anything right now about it. It's okay. And then there's later contemplation, and that is where we take it more seriously. We're now really recognizing that there is a problem and we need to change, but it's not right now. It's maybe next week, next month. I've got some time before I need to make that change happen. Okay, so that leads us to our third stage of change, which is preparation. So we're no longer contemplating that change. We know we need to change, and now we're taking steps to figure out how do we make that change, right? So maybe we're looking up a rehab program, maybe we're starting to see what other jobs are out there, or looking at what local gyms I can belong to. So we are taking steps to figure out how to change. Okay, that leads us to our fourth stage of change, which is the action stage of change. Now we're taking the steps that we kind of found in the preparation. Now we're putting them into action. We're actively doing things to make the change. Now, what's important in the action stage of change is that we don't always stay there, right? So sometimes we start those steps, but we stop. And then we can throw ourselves back into any of those 3 previous stages of change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, and preparation, right? So the goal is to stay in the action stage of change, which then leads us to the 5th stage of change, which is called maintenance. Now, maintenance is that changes happen, right? We've integrated it into our lives and we are now maintaining that stage of change. Now on the handout, you can see a 6th stage, which is called relapse. And that is when we go back to the old behavior, the pre-change behavior. And for the sake of the video, we're gonna just focus on the first 5 with the goal of maintaining that stage of change. So this leads to the second part, which is the importance to accurately assess what stage of change you are in so you can set up realistic expectations and steps for that particular stage of change. Now, remember before we had 2 stages of change, no change and change, right? And under that model, we would have put pre-contemplation, contemplation, and preparation under the no change, and we would have had action and maintenance under the change. Now, if we look at the 5 stages of change, yes, pre-contemplation stays no change is happening. However, contemplation and preparation would move over to change. And this is important because we need to recognize that even though we're in contemplation and preparation, we are still doing things to move ourselves through that stage of change and get to action and maintenance, right? And this is important because we need to have positive reinforcement, positive affirmations to help us move through those stages of change. Now, if we incorrectly assess ourselves in the stage of change, i.e. we want to be in action stage or we think we should be in action stage, but really maybe we're in later contemplation, well, we're probably going to set ourselves up to create unrealistic steps and expectations for that particular stage of change. So this kind of leads to the 3rd section, which is how do we move through those stages of change? Now, therapists use a lot what's called motivational interviewing to help clients move through those stages of change. And for this video, it is a little bit too in-depth, too complicated to kind of go through. So what can you do to help yourself move through those stages of change? And so like we said before, it is super important to accurately assess what stage of change it is so that you can find the steps that you need to do to get to the next stage of change. So, for example, if you're in contemplation, what do you want to do? You want to look for discrepancies. What does that mean? That is kind of like, hey, I don't really have a problem. I don't think there's really anything going on. But your friends and family do think you have a problem and are upset about what's going on. That is a discrepancy. So what you want to do is start looking for those kinds of discrepancies in your life to help move you through that contemplation stage of change and get to preparation. So now you're in the preparation stage of change, and what you want to do here is stay engaged in finding steps that are going to help make that change happen. And what is super important here is to find achievable, realistic steps that will help take you into the action stage of change. So in the action stage of change, what is important is consistency, to consistently practice those steps for change. And even if you get stuck or stop, to try not to go back into those 3 previous stages of change, but instead stay in action until you can get to the maintenance stage of change. So in the maintenance stage of change, what is important beyond just maintaining the change is actually having support systems in place to help with the maintenance, to prevent relapse, and to really promote lasting, long change. So with this video, I hope you were able to learn something new around change, why it can be so hard, why it takes time, and that you are probably doing a lot more towards your change than you're giving yourself credit for. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, notification. If there are any topics around mental health or therapy that you would like to hear more about, please put in the comments below. I definitely want to keep making more videos. So until the next one.